Thank you all for joining in. I know some operation issues with Zoom or with Luma, not able to figure out, but then we'll figure out in some time, right? Once we pass the buck on to Venkat. But then thank you again for coming in. I think a lot of crowd, a lot of you are basically coming out for the sixth or the seventh time with us, uh, continuously attending our sessions and seeing the value that these sessions give to you. And I'm very happy for that. And thank you for your time. I know some of you it's late in India, some of you it's early morning there. So thank you for your time. Thank you for bringing in your contribution as well. Last week, Sanjeev kicked us off talking to us about the importance of data products and why he has this fanboy moment about data products. This week, we have with us Venkat Pingali, and I'd love him to introduce himself in a bit. Who's also a data products practitioner as a founder. He's helping customers build data products. While you hold on to Sanjeev's perspective, today you'll hear a different dimension of perspective from Venkat, particularly around based on his implementations around data products, which are a lot more ML heavy. But as part of today's session, one of the main themes today is all going to be around the life cycle of data products, right? So Venkat would definitely talk to you about that. Before we go there, a few housekeeping announcement. I know I keep repeating this because we want to debate and challenge our thoughts and ideas, and that's where we all learn. It's not about Venkat speaking or me speaking about our ideas and thoughts, or Rajesh or Vignesh, whoever speaks it. But it's all about you sharing your perspective and debating and challenging people here. Please do that. I think that's how we want to build this great community. Post your questions here and raise your hands or unmute. And I think we would definitely address your questions. I'll give the links for Slack and LinkedIn and all the other links that you should follow us. So I'll post it on the chat window once Venkat takes over. But then the session is being recorded, and all sessions going forward would be recorded as well, which means you would be able to see the video and take note and take screenshots from it if you want to at a later point of time, and share it with your teams as well. Right. Just a good thank you to Vignesh and the team from E6 Data who basically hosted us last week. And this was a community meetup in Bangalore. Somebody called me today morning from a startup in Chennai, and they said, can we do something similar in Chennai? So we are coming to Chennai as well. So we would be there very soon, right? So I'm seeing a lot of people turning the videos on. That's very nice of you to turn videos on at 9 p.m. India time. Thank you for that. Right. So we're going to come back to new cities. I think exciting conversations, and the picture that you see on this screen with the focus. People figured out that they are related to each other and they met in our event. Can you imagine that? I think it's going beyond data. I think we're creating meaningful relationships beyond data communities into actually people figuring out and meeting their relatives as well, right? So that's a great one, but more to come, more events to come. But I don't want to steal the thunder outside of this core topic around data products. That's why we're all together. If there's one line I would like to leave your thoughts with, I had 2 calls from 4 p.m. in the evening till now around data products, focus on customers in Europe. So, which basically tells you how important this topic is. Mesh data products, are they related and all of that? But then before I pass it on to Venkat, I've got a couple of thought process that I would like Venkat to cover, and that's what I think I would want you to take away. Now, here a different perspective of what is a data product, right? Very, very important. What is a data product? Define that, keep that mental frame of mind around what is a data product. And as you hear more speakers, I think we'll all come to a refinement around what's a data product. Now, understand the different types of data products, right? Now, you should naturally question, okay, I'm building a tape to MR today. Is that a data product? I think find answers for that. If Venkat does not cover that during his slides, ask him that question. I think get his perspective based on his customer implementations, understand why his product is and how his product is helping as well. Thirdly, understand the life cycle of data products. I think that's a core topic. How does data products journey look like? What are the different elements of data products? I think let's understand that. I think I'll leave this floor with that thought process. And I'm not going to interrupt Venkat unless or until it's necessary, or I have a very curious question that I want to ask Venkat. So we are deviating from the Q&A style to allowing the speakers to basically present, because Venkat has prepared a wonderful deck that he wants to share with all of you as well, right? So with that, I'll pass the floor on to Venkat. Venkat, as you share your slide, right? I want to understand a little bit about your background, Venkat, and a little bit about What you've been building, what's your company all about? I think a short little introduction would definitely help. Venkat, you're on mute if you're speaking. Yes.
Okay. I'm a recovering academic. I was, my area of work was protocols and deep inside network routers and all of those kinds of things. About 12 years back or so, I actually got quite interested in energy data, and the energy got dropped, but the data remained. And for the past 10 years, I've been building leading data teams and or building data products. Now I'm building a platform to build data products. I'll tell you a little bit about us. We're in now 3 countries. We have offices in Bangalore, Toronto, and also in the US. We're a small team, but fairly rapidly growing. We have some marquee names as customers and more in the pipeline. The key thing is probably not that. The key thing is that we are practitioners, and a lot of what I'm going to share is not I have resisted the temptation to go off into the corner and come up with stuff being an academic. I have resisted that, and a lot of what I'm going to talk about is something that comes from experiential knowledge, right? Just doing these things, building the products, and therefore, like, I'm fairly opinionated about what these products are and what do they actually need, and what are the hard problems and what are the easy problems, right? Like I said, I have a particular vantage point because that has been the focus of my work for the past 5 years or so. ML-like products across multiple domains. We have done more than 100 products, so we have a good sense of what kinds of challenges these products have. I'll tell you a little bit about what I think of as product. Mainly, we are interested in mid-market, fast-moving, mid-sized companies. Don't have a lot of insight into Fortune 500 context, so that's not something that I can meaningfully address. But I have seen these things through the life cycle. One of our products has been running for 2.5 years. Like, so enough sleepless nights teaches you a lot of stuff about these products. So far with me? So first, yes. I mean, the question is, how am I thinking about all of this stuff, right? Now, the way, at least a lot of my language and data products is tinged with ML. So just remember that. I think that we are at the beginning of a very significant change in the landscape itself. I think of where we are in 2023 as in the cars world, it was 1890, where we have handcrafted these products and engines for exclusive customers. Think of the richest and the mightiest people at that time. We are in this like next 10-year phase where we are going to commoditize this whole thing. And the process of commoditization involves a significant shift in terms of thinking. Instead of handcrafting, we are thinking about efficiency. We're thinking about maintenance. We're thinking about safety, standards, assembly lines. These are all the terminology that will come in the next few years, in my opinion. I am fairly convinced about the stage where we are in. And being in the machine learning world, I've seen the hypes of, like, the shiny object, the fascinating one, and also where the rubber meets the road. So let's jump in straight away. What do I think is a product, right? To me, so we have experienced products, cars, buckets, trains, and all those kinds of things. A product has a defined scope. We can actually point out, and we know what we are paying for, we know what we are getting for, and we know how to engage with it. When we plug in a motor into the plug point, we know that it works. We know that we have to pay like whatever X amount of rupees, and it will run for so much, after which it needs to be taken for maintenance and so on. When we think of a product, we already have a conceptualization, right? A big thing about these products is guarantees that it actually works. It is serviceable. It is secure. You will not get a shock when you touch the motor. And you can, every time you plug in the motor, it still works, and so on. It needs to give all of these guarantees. That is when it starts acquiring this product-like capabilities. The last one.
I love this thought, Venkat. I'm just going to double click on that. I think serviceability, trust, wonderful words. Isn't that something that people are doing today? I'm not going to interrupt your flow. I'm sorry, I promised that, but I love the words that you mentioned.
See, like all things, right? None of these ideas are new, right? What happens in any domain is that we have to bring in all of these ideas, incorporate them, interpret all of these words in the context that we are dealing with, right? I'll give you examples of this, and I'm very confident that many of these things are not there today in the products, because I deal with data correctness issues day in and day out, right? And trust is big deal. I'm going to zoom into trust a little bit and talk about what does it actually require. The last thing that which is important, which is aesthetics also. We live in a complex technology world. The amount of cognitive load that we place on end users is real. So one of the big things that I expect these products to have is improved aesthetics. It shouldn't be intimidating for people to actually use these products, the data products. So these are very broad parameters. You know, these data products will take many different forms. They may be layered on, you know, data mesh or not, and so on. I'm like less opinionated. For me, as long as it has these attributes, you will have like 50 different ways of accomplishing this same objective. But there are some things that are really important, right? The first one is that every one of these data products, I'll give you an example in a moment, and with that I'll illustrate some of these points. There is a lot of the value as well as the complexity comes from the transformation, right? If there is no transformation, you might as well go to the warehouse, and that is an access problem, right? You don't have a product there. And product is created through this value add that you do. The transformation could be just organizing, it could be feature engineering, which is transforming the data, or it could be modeling also. The second thing is that somebody should stand behind it and support it through its entire life cycle, from the point it is conceptualized, developed, executed, evolved, and so on. If there is no process, if there is no tooling for supporting the life cycle of this data product, then it is not a product. It's not a data product, in my opinion. The third thing is aesthetics also. I have become, as time progressed, what I realized is that we are really storytelling machines. We are not people who can see tables and grasp them very easily. So these data products should dramatically reduce the friction to consumption, and the interface is a big source of that friction. And given these things, you can implement it. For example, the very first version of our product will look like a Python script with a framework to actually run it, execute it, collect data, standardized storage, as well as a task-specific GUI using Django, right? They know what they are receiving, and they know the 3 actions that they can take. And it doesn't complicate their life beyond that. Now, we are talking about what is changing. The number of data products, the complexity of all of these data products is growing very fast. And that is why we are having this conversation. If world was a static place, we wouldn't have bothered. With that, let me give you an actual example, right? So here the stakeholder is somebody who manages partners of Acme, right? This is actually a real example. Of course, Acme is fictitious, but the example is real. Now, what was happening here is that when the partner manager goes into a meeting with the partner, they want to be able to have the best possible relationship and the most fruitful relationship. Now, for that, the partner needs to be equipped with relevant information. How has been their relationship at a technical level when there is interaction between the Acme's systems and the partner system? How have they been working? How many transactions? How have been the volume of transactions that they are doing, and of course how much money they are making and things like that. And the goal is to construct creative engagements that will create win-win opportunities. Now, if you look at what this is, nothing but a lightweight machine learning problem. There is a significant amount of data transformation that is involved. There is some amount of modeling, and most importantly, this partner gets an app of some sort where, when the person is on the road, just as this person is about to enter the meeting, the person can click on the partner management, get a bird's eye view of the relationship with that partner, and then is able to manage the conversation that is happening. This to me is a product. It starts from raw data and it goes all the way to end users, and the end users have a friction-free decision support using the systems. And imagine hundreds and thousands of this, because this has to do with one meeting, one stakeholder, one class of decisions. And what we have observed over a period of time is that this actually goes into hundreds and thousands. So when we started about 2 years back, the customers would say, like, okay, I have 3 use cases, maybe I'll have a 4th one, and so on. The most recent conversation that we had, the customer walks in saying that I have about 100 use cases. Now, tell me, how am I going to actually execute upon this 100? And it is the scaling of the number of such use cases that is creating the need for this kind of conversation. And so what is needed is within the community as a whole, we have to chat and ask, okay, where do we draw the boundaries? What are the right interfaces? What is the right standards, flows? Are there design patterns? All of these things should emerge over the next so much time. So I see this as a beginning of a fairly long conversation over the next few years.
Got it, Venkat. So a quick interruption here. So a lot of folks also come from a heavy data engineering world, not necessarily ML world on this call. And as data engineers, what you end up doing or creating is probably a data mart or an aggregated view on top of a warehouse, largely, right? Which is then consumed by your analyst or your BI dashboard. Will you still call that as a data product without doing any of the ML stuff or any of the, even remote visualization? Will you still call and consider that as a data product?
I think it's a very, I think it's in a limited sense, it is a product, right? Because we are delivering something of value to the end user. There is no doubt about that. I think what happens in all technologies is that, the world that was there 5 years back is not the world that is there today. For example, you were talking about data mart. Pretty much every single executive that I talk to is looking beyond BI. And the reason is that all of these data marts and reports tell them what is the current state of the business. That is not what they are interested in. What they are interested in is, why is my state of the business the way it is? And going forward, if I have to change it over the next so much time, what are my choices? What are my levers? Pretty much everything then looks like, you have to keep making the product thicker and thicker in order to address problems that are closer and closer to where the mind is of the end user. So while I say that in a limited form, the data mart is also fine, but the future is well beyond that, right? For example, here in this particular case, when we say transaction DB, the input is the data mart.
Yeah,
that is the starting point for this entire activity. And all of these additional steps add newer and newer dimensions of value to the end objective without taking away. I am a believer in live and let live. I believe that the data marts and the dashboards and all of them, which I call level 2, will continue to exist while we create more and more levels going forward.
Okay. I'm assuming you're going to talk about that as well, right?
Correct.
I don't want to scare the data engineers on the call as well. I think towards end, you don't have to disturb your flow. Towards the end, can you also talk about how data engineers on this call today can capitalize on what we're talking about today, become data product managers and data product operators and all that.
If there is one, yeah, absolutely. So there is one thing that, if you forget.
No, go ahead, Venkat. Go ahead, Venkat. Sorry, I was chiming in, but please go ahead.
If there is one thing that I would encourage.
Did we lose Venkat?
Yeah, sorry, I have bad internet. Okay, so I have only one big suggestion for the data engineers. Look, most of the life of data engineers has been spent in moving the data from here to there, storing the data, and even probably querying the data. All of this value of this data products is coming from the content. What is inside the table? What is inside the data set that you're moving from here to there? My suggestion here is that the data engineers, as they can, within this tool set that they have and within the context that they have, can create tremendous value if they start looking inside the data and having the value conversations with the end customers, and they will find like 5 different things immediately.
Got it. Yeah, I think I kind of hear you out as well in terms of.
Okay. With that, let me zoom in, right? Because this is a.
I think, did we lose Venkat?
Shall I proceed?
I think you're chopping. You're fading out, Venkat, in the middle. Guys, am I audible?
Yes, you are. I think.
Yes, Rajesh.
While Venkat joins in, I mean, his previous slide was actually telling, and I wanted to comment because I know that there are more data engineers here in this group. But fundamentally, the way you have to look at it is, even data engineering as it stands today is actually a decade old, or let's say, as a title itself, maybe decade old, right? And we are still in a dynamic world where we're trying to figure out what is the right way to reconfigure these teams, right? So we have got an analytic engineer coming in last 3 years, and then we got an ML engineer, and all of these different roles getting created, right? What I sense would happen is, over a period of time, we will have teams which are configured more closely. For instance, the analyst may work closely with the data engineer, right? And together they may actually focus on an end outcome. Now, this end outcome would be, let's say, a BI dashboard. I'm just taking an example of BI dashboard. Let's say a marketing dashboard. Now, everything that goes in the funnel of that particular marketing product is essentially what this particular product team would be all about. And it would probably have a data engineer and an analytic engineer, or possibly some combination of that. Right. So today what happens is the data engineer's job gets done once he has moved the data and probably arranged it in the warehouse in a certain format. But as time progresses, there is a good chance that the end goal, it will be more output driven or end goal driven than stopping at a place and then passing the buck to the next guy to pick it up.
Yeah, I think fantastic point, Rajesh. Right. So I think that's not similar to the way I am thinking. I think data engineers would have a lot more value in the data product world, because today we are mostly backend teams. I saw a GIF yesterday circulating around LinkedIn, right? So we are like the crew in the engine guys in the ship, where we do all the plumbing of the code, putting the coal into, and all the dirty work, while all the flashy stuff remains on the top. And we seem typically to add less value as opposed to a data science guy or an analytics person. Now, in a data product world, because it's tightly collaborated, domain driven, and output driven as well, we are actual collaborators and very close collaborators on the problem statement, which becomes narrow. We're no longer building a 10,000 table data mart or a data warehouse. We're now building a data product which has a defined outcome. We work in very close association with the business teams, which means there's high recognition, high value. And I think the opportunity for data engineers to also work collaboratively with business, as well as expand our skill sets to the right, which is around data analysis or even reporting or machine learning or data science. I think we focus on the problem, just not on the skill set. Like how data products as a spectrum does not focus on the output, not on the tech. I think data engineering will become a spectrum that kind of embraces things towards the right, is my personal belief. Because when you start working with business closely, you now feel, okay, he now needs a churn model. So there are tools available, for example, Scribble data does that. Rajesh's product does that, where you can understand how a churn model works just by passing in parameters, while the entire complexity of machine learning, statistics, and all that is abstracted for you. So I think our role as data engineers is much, much, much bigger, valuable in the modern world. Obviously, yes, value means you're driving an output, not just focus on connecting dots or connecting and moving tables, right? I think there's a lot of scope in my point of view in the data product world. Now Venkat is back. Let's come back to the idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely. To reinforce that point, right? Some of the most amazing conversations that I've had is when we delivered some of these products, people actually coming to me and thanking me, right? ROI is not under question. There are enough use cases that you can apply a lot of the skill set and collaboration to in all of these enterprises, right? So the opportunity is huge. That is why I'm like bullish. In the interest of time, let me zoom into, let's say you have this kind of a product, like, this partner benchmarking product, which is supposed to drive the business objectives, right, of building and growing partnerships. Now, I will skip the part about, how you create the products at various levels and so on. Let me talk talk about how does it actually happen in practice, this development. See, the one big thing that you have to take away here is that almost nobody actually knows the final product that they would like, because in most cases the experience of most end users has been mostly dashboards, Excels. Right? I have an export of something and then they are able to see. What we have found consistently is that they have a starting point. They don't have a lot of clarity, but the moment you show them something, their mind opens up, because they know what is the ultimate experience that they would like, that would actually make them feel good and productive and all of those kinds of things. But for that, they need to be able to see something. It's almost like, in order to understand what a car is, you have to see one to begin with. And initially, in the cars world, they didn't know what to call it. They called it initially horseless cart. It's just a cart, but without a horse. Then after like 10 years, around 1900, they started calling it roundabout, something that goes round and round. And then automobile came by the end of 1910 or so. In the same way, the big things to learn about the life cycle of product is that it has a much higher degree of uncertainty. It is not specification driven, because nobody knows the specification. So it becomes really critical that the process is very agile and responsive as it learns new information about data, about the outcome that the users want, and about the methods that can be used to enable the outcomes. This thing has to be constantly evolving, right? So it is, for you to open up that spigot of opportunities, you need to deliver a product really fast, something that is, good enough to have a conversation. And then a lot of other stuff happens. But these data products, see, it is one thing for these data products to be nice charts where it is nice to show and ask questions and so on. Data products are really useful, and people start depending on them. They would be looking for trust, right? So whatever, even if it is not as functional, even if it is a very simple product, you need to be able to take the credibility management seriously. When the product delivers a certain numbers, charts, and so on, you have to have a reason to believe that they are accurate and it won't harm the people who are actually using this. The credibility management is really important. So while you evolve the data product, you have to maintain the trust. And the other thing is relevance. Their job itself keeps changing. The KPIs keep changing. The product also has to move along, right? So this is the data products have a much higher degree of uncertainty than the regular software development cycle. So the kinds of people, kinds of processes, the kinds of tools that are appropriate have to, the ones that are appropriate are those that are able to handle these uncertainty. So keeping it very simple becomes very important. This is, I believe, one of the reasons that the MDS, the modern data stack proposals and some others, which encouraged a lot of complexity, but not enough agility and trust. That is why I think they are in decline and there is a need for a new set of ideas at the table. Now, so it is hard enough to develop, maintain, sustain a product. But when you look at the set of products that any enterprise does, these run into tens to hundreds and possibly even thousands. And many times there is only one user for a product. So whatever is the method that is being used to manage these products has to account for the wide variety of products that we will build. We have built products where it is nothing but a high school math, adding two numbers, subtracting, those kinds of things, all the way to like deep learning. And they span this entire like range. And so one of the challenges is when you have this diversity of products, how do you maintain all of these things, right, while keeping the productivity going? And remember that they all tend to be very fragile. In most cases, the input data is very, it varies a lot in terms of quality. So you have to maintain the trust in the product while accounting for the input issues as well. So it is not going to be an easy journey. That's very clear to us because we know what it took to deliver everything from CFO looking at risk exposure of the company all the way to forecasting to various other kinds of situations. So over a period of time, what emerged is a certain structure to this whole product. And I'm going to zoom out, right? So when you zoom into a given product like the benchmarking, essentially it has one step of ingestion, then there is a significant amount of organizing, feature engineering, quality checking, and so on. And then there is a fairly beefy step involving adding sophisticated features and possibly running a model. And finally, doing a fair amount of checks on the output side, because once you introduce corrupted data into the system, there are a bunch of downstream effects. All of these data products will get organized as a DAG, right? We have observed that. So you have to be very careful when it comes to injecting data into the rest of the system. Now, this is just one product. Eventually, we'll pack a bunch of these things on a certain platform. And the platform itself, we have discovered that it will have a bunch of different capabilities. Whether it is documentation, cataloging, whether it is versioning, lineage, all of these things will come into picture, right? And there are today all of these are being assembled individually. What we realized is that if you have to deliver even one product, you need a version of all of these things within a platform. You can't do without it. And so we had early versions of the scheduling, early versions of orchestration, all of them, right? And we pack all of these things into a single system so that we are able to deliver up to like maybe 100 data products and literally on a single instance of a server.
Venkat, I have one question. Sorry for interrupting as well. So if you look at the previous slide number 19 that you presented, that's typically what we build today, right? I think most of the folks on the call typically build that complete life cycle, right? We work on the compute infrastructure, we work on bringing data into that central warehouse, and then kind of feeding that out into different systems. Except that we do not apply that as a product first approach, we approached that as a product function of a warehousing approach is a Ralph Kimball model to data exposure. Right. So how is that different from here?
So there are two, three things that change, which will result in re-architecting. And the single most important thing is the lifecycle management. These products keep evolving continuously, right? Typically, when we looked at this, a lot of the architectures that are being proposed, we started with Airflow and a bunch of these kinds of things and eventually gave up because we spend almost 10 to 20 times understanding the data than actually writing the code to generate the data, because we want to be clear that this product that is being delivered to the end user is trustworthy. We can stand behind it, right? So the other thing is, for example, we had, for example, a pricing product that had almost 43 checkpoints. And at every step, they needed to be able to take a snapshot of it and understand how the pricing engine is working at that step. Because the consequence of getting this wrong is a huge hit on the bottom line of the company. Right? Yeah. So the point is that
I think there's a fair question here around it's just sent to me is around, aren't we doing this today? Right? So the question is,
correct. I don't disagree that we are not doing it. So what happens in historically, nothing is new. I mean, I've been around. I've seen these things before. I think what changes is the configuration, because now we want to have dozens, hundreds, thousands of these products. That changes the way you put the whole system together. Yes. Every architecture has an objective. Here, the single most important objective is trust and lifecycle management. That changes what technologies you pick up from the available pool of ideas and tools, open source tools, and so on. And then how do you package them together, right?
I think you absolutely are kind of bringing that closure visualization, at least in my brain, around what does a data product look like, right? So it's essentially what you're doing currently could also become a data product. I think we'll come into how you build data products later, but then adding a life cycle, adding that element of trust factor built in, so that people don't have to spend 80% of the time searching and looking for the quality of the data, looking for the trust of the data, and then they're able to readily consume it. But then it's also managed with the proper life cycle.
Correct. And the productivity improvements required are serious. So now even the Fortune 100 customers are talking to us about 3 weeks time to build out a new product. There is no project plan. There is no 12-month, 18-month. There is no hiring and so on. As the time frame,
are your customers also centralizing data in a warehouse or a lake house or lake, then building products from there, or they're like doing everything from scratch?
No, it is so. All of these data products have to work in whatever is the architecture that has been already fleshed out for that particular company. In some cases, they have Snowflake. In other cases, for example, in the Fortune 100 customer, we were talking to a functional team that had its own stack. Then we are talking about a $40 million e-commerce customer that has a large centralized platform. But they want a parallel platform that is nimble, because they have, from get-go, they have 100 products to build. So they don't want to be spending time architecting a new system for all of this. They want a streamlined way of doing this so that all different elements of the products are taken care of, and we can turn this into a cookie cutter, right? Generate these products day after day. And the time frame is shrinking. So customers today are talking about a year from now when they want to churn out a product every week. Right? The pace at which the use cases are developing is increasing.
Yeah. Fair point. Yes.
Right. So we will see, in my mind, this is the logical architecture. You can implement it in many different ways, right? Depending upon the economics of that particular organization. But what I'm saying is lifecycle, trust, and other guarantees that you need to be given. and the speed with which these things have to be delivered, all of these are crucial elements, along with the touch and feel that I was talking about. Like,
got it.
They have to experience a product.
Yeah, sure. I think since a lot of us on the call also come from a data engineering background, would it also be possible for you to explain, like, where are we? What is that product that we are building? And what is the highest element of value addition that we can build, and what level of transforms, right? So the L1s and all that. Would you be able to cover that in a bit?
Yeah. I think there is a very significant opportunity that is opening up, in my opinion, for data engineers. See, traditionally, the way we looked at the world was we had this is the warehouse building tables, and we were worried about queries. Then there is another group of people who built the dashboards. Then there were a separate group of people who did ad hoc analytics and so on. Now, the configuration of all of these things is actually changing. Now, we have new spaces emerging in what I think of as 2.5. There are products, but they also are higher value, and they draw upon the L3. For example, what are some problems that level 3 folks in the analytics team handle, right? Why is my conversions the way it is? And how can I improve my conversions, right? They would go off into the corner, like spend 3 weeks and come back and say that this is the reason. But what they are not able to do, which the data engineers should be able to dramatically help with, is productization, because they are asking this conversion question every single day. Now, if data engineers step in, understand a little bit about how they think about conversions and things like that, I'm sure the data engineers can come up with a very good way of cheaply building out these conversions, because a single exercise of this conversion root cause analysis takes about 3 weeks for a customer of mine. They want it done every single day, right? Which data engineers should be able to do. But for that, they need to go beyond tools, get a little bit into what is conversions. What is the actual data on which this conversions is being computed? How is it being computed? If they can marry that understanding with the tooling knowledge, then you get to create like fantastic products, in my opinion. And this L2.5 level, what I think of as level 2.5, this is growing very fast, right? There's a whole lot of stuff. This is the layer that people are talking about on top of Snowflake, right? Okay. And there will be hundreds and thousands of these.
You feel all of us data engineers on the call can add a lot more value, right?
Absolutely. But you have to get out of your comfort zone. See, I've been a systems engineer, right? Database hacker and all of those kinds of things. I understand the mindset, right? But you have to be able to talk in terms of data labeling, not just tool of the data labeling, but actually the problem of data labeling and the value of data labeling to the end users. Then you can put the solution together in whatever tool set that you have. Take, Java, open source, non-open source, API, like Mechanical Turk, it doesn't matter.
So I think that's what will help us become a data product manager or a data product architect. I think somewhere where there's a lot more value addition as opposed to just becoming just a plumber or a data engineer.
There is immense value to this. I can tell you that, right? Because we speak to, because of the way our organization is structured, on one side, we talk to the data science, we also talk to the data engineering, we also talk to the analytics folks, right? And a lot of opportunities are being lost because because of the gap between the business folks and the data engineering. So they will never be able to move into data engineering because it's a highly skilled area, right? Niche area of particular kinds of ETL tools and high volume, ruggedness. It has its own, subculture of its own. The initiative will have to be taken, in my opinion, by the data engineers themselves.
Okay, to move up.
And they have to get it. Correct. And build a collaborative relationship. I tell you that these guys would love more tooling help. The analytics folks. I speak to them every single day.
Okay, perfect.
Right? Because if let's take the case of profile construction, right? this will, they have to send coupons. Who do they say have to send coupons to? They have to construct a profile of every single user. And then from there, based on that, they'll apply some logic and send it out. Now, the profile construction is very ad hoc, non-standard, and so on. I wish the data engineers would tell them a very structured and a simple way of constructing these profiles, and a richer and richer profile every single day.
Sure. Thank you.
So similarly, I mean, where we don't operate at 2.5, we operate more at the 3.5. The interface between analytics teams and the machine learning teams, we sit somewhere in between. Here we are looking at productizing the advanced analytics use cases, things like recommendations, predictions, search, optimization, and all of those kinds of things. This has very similar problem, the structural problem, right? In all cases, the analytics team is looking to build more products. So this is the opportunity for the data engineers, in my opinion. They want to go beyond just acting based on somebody else's questions. But in order to be able to, but their world is very, it's a high pressure world that the analytics teams live in. So I can talk a little bit about, how you could approach them to create opportunities, right? Collaborative opportunities.
Sure. Perfect. Venkat. Yeah. Just a quick time check. I think we've got 9 more minutes to close. And I know you also want to cover.
I'll say one last thing.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
This is where another place where data engineers will become very important, because pretty much what we are seeing here is that every single function will start building data products. Today we are talking to lawyers, we are talking to like finance people, everybody, because they have problems that they want solved with data, and they will do it in the fast way possible. So one of the places where the data engineers could really help is by establishing processes and standards and interfaces, so that the architecture is coherent, right? Data is flowing without friction within the organization. This requires you to think, understand quite a bit about how products are developed, what do they actually know and not know, and what are the risks that emerge out of these data products, so that you can build the appropriate infrastructural support. And this is where the data mesh comes into the picture. So it's not an accident that Zamak is also thinking about data products, because it's actually an infra for all of these apps that are going to build on top, and they have to interoperate with each other. But my only concern with Zamak's approach is that historically, whenever people have imposed strong patterns saying that thou shalt do it like this, they have failed. Wherever they have had little more permissive architectures, enabling creativity at the individual data products, but guardrails for interaction, those things have been very successful. So I would recommend that the data engineers come to the table with more flexible attitude.
Got it. Yeah. Any questions from the team? I think because we have got 7-8 more minutes before you close out. Right? Like I had this question in mind, but then I would love to see if anybody has questions. Probably you can unmute your line and ask question.
I'm sure people will.
Yeah. So I think what we want you to take away, understand what's a data product. I think that's something we've been trying to clarify week on week. We'll do one or two more times as well, because we all are new to this world of data products. But if there are any questions from the team, like unmute your line, ask us. Could be any question, or you want to challenge Venkat and say, no, what you're doing is wrong. What you shared is wrong. Again, happy to hear your comments. Right? Anybody? Should we pick people? No.
We can let it sink.
Okay. I'm going to do that. Yeah.
This will be an ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
I will be on the Slack as well.
I think
the way I see.
So I think couple of questions.
Yeah,
so
go ahead. Somebody had a question. Please go ahead.
Sri here. Thank you,
Go ahead.
Venkat. A very good informative session. So my question is like when you talk about collaborating with analytics team, right? Like or any business team. So in some organizations, they have a culture where we get the requirements in terms of documents or in terms of Azure tasks or in terms of Jira tasks. So in this kind of culture, right, how can we approach to connect with the data partners or business so that we can fix that gap in terms of just not only reading only the provided documents or the tasks, assigned tasks. There should be a connection we should build to collaborate more and understand better.
So I know exactly what you're talking about. My suggestion is don't fight the Jira and so on. Your CIO and other folks have already established this process. I think the way I would approach this is having an open house session, right? Say that we from the data engineering team or we from the analytics teams are available on Thursday at 4 o'clock in the canteen. Why don't you come and we'll just have a filling conversation, right? So I can tell you that one big issue that the analytics teams have told me consistently, which is that there is nobody hearing from the other side, right? They will use whatever tool, right? Jira or anything else. That is just a mechanism, in my opinion. The problem is like more cultural in nature. So my suggestion is, have open spaces and safe spaces where people can freely interact with each other and exchange a bunch of ideas about what are the ongoing challenges that they have. And I can tell you that they have like lots of them. You just have to ask.
Thank you.
There's another question sent to me. So coming from Harish Miran, I think Harish Miran works at Mass Mutual. So he's asking about when you do the SDLC lifecycle for data products, how do you measure, document it, and how do you measure a data product's outcome also? Good question. I think Venkat, you want to pick it up?
Yeah. So 2-3 things, right? First, how do we measure the outcome? The outcome is directly in terms of user adoption and so almost every app that is built on our platform comes with history. Who has accessed this thing for what reason? And we track it mostly to understand if there are any adoption issues and so on. So the measurement of the utilization of the product should be built into the product. It should not be separated out. Okay. And that should be watched very, very closely because it's a discovery process. The number of times when I picked up.
Go ahead, Venkat.
The number of times I picked up the phone and called the end user directly and asked, like, what is preventing you from using this? Then they would say something like, okay, the column order is not right, because that is messing up the way I am thinking about the problem. It is as simple as that, right? Just asking itself, engagement will dramatically improve if you are able to better fit the product as a nice puzzle into their a nice piece into their puzzle, right? That they already have. So that is the first part. Now, how do you measure in terms of the SDLC processes, right? The biggest concern, the single most important concern that I have with all of these data products is correctness. I look for not perfect coding, but extremely defensive coding, right? Checks every step of the way. I need transparency at every step of the way, right? To be able to know exactly why something has been computed the way it has been and the why it is being shown the way it is. So the SDLC process has to slightly shift towards deep instrumentation and deep transparency. And the law will settle down after a point.
Yeah, fair point. I know we're close to the hour, but then any other questions from the team? I'll give a couple of seconds for the team to ask questions.
Hi, I'm Haris. Hi, Venkat. It's a nice presentation. I have a question. You know that you talked about data products that should be set up and usage should be set up in the initial phase itself. In a larger organizations where we are planning to make sure that one product is used across multiple teams and the duplication of data products should not be accessed, so that the warehouse is already built to serve multiple products. How can we measure that? And because we plan for one thing and the new recipient comes, then we provide access to them and saying that, okay, why don't you use this one so that you don't duplicate and start building the same product again?
Yes.
And how can we address that? And the other question is that, what's the difference between setting up these and the data lineage process that's being followed?
Okay. Let me address the first question, right? So what you said is actually the process that we observe in reality. So invariably, what happens is that when a product is built, all the stakeholders are all chatting with each other, and they start asking, what if I could get access to the same product, or I could build a similar product, and so on. So it will have its own dynamic within the organization. I think the key thing here is that you have to understand the organizational's security boundaries, administrative boundaries, and financial boundaries that has to be embedded into the product. Because invariably the ask from our users comes like, okay, I have this product, but I want it to be restricted the following ways: in time, in space, in terms of people, in terms of quality, and all of those kinds of things. So the platform itself, you have to think from get-go that you will have all of these constraints, and it will have to be multi-tenant from fairly early on. You have to think about how to do. So one of the things that ended up happening in the code base is that we start defining namespaces for various organizations, RBAC rules, and all of those kinds of things. So you have to build it into your platform, right? More than the product. The platform should support all of this. And you should allow multiple instantiations of the same app, right? With different configurations and things like that. The other part, which is how is this different from lineage? Lineage is actually a very small part of this entire data product. If you look at what all it involves, if we have to consume the product, we look at it from many different angles. Not only how data is flowing within the product, which is the lineage part, but also a lot about the correctness, the distributions, things like even visualization and so on. So think of the lineage as just one part of one of the many capabilities that the platform needs to have in order to deliver. But it's not the beginning or the end of it.
Okay. I was just talking about the data lineage, the final part. I understand and I agree with you because overall the lineage talks about the flow of data. But the final part of lineage is who is accessing that. That's where I try to. But thank you. It helps me.
Okay. So that starts becoming a cataloging issue, right? Yeah. Who has visibility into these products and who can access this product? So you are now beginning
catalog, basically, right? It becomes like...
So there will be a product catalog. There will be a separate data catalog because every product, in order to deliver the final outcome, it creates a number of byproducts.
Yeah.
So they will look like data sets, intermediate data sets.
Yeah, I think one more point to Venkat's answer, right? See, Harish, so one of the reasons why data catalogs fail is basically you want to understand and catalog almost at a table level, column level, and there's like thousands of tables, hundreds of thousands of tables in a large institution like where you're working currently, right? But then in a product catalog world, it becomes more usable. And understand from data catalog world, it's not about populating that beautiful lineage because tools are there to do that. It's about driving consumption and adoption and a data-first culture around, hey, I look for whether the table exists before I do any subsequent action. And that workflow on that doesn't exist, right? In practical reality, that's we are far-fetched from from where we intended to be when we started doing all these data catalogs. Well, in a product catalog, that changes because now you're no longer delivering tables just like that. You're now packaging it. You have a clear defined owner. You have an output that is owned by domain or segregated by domain, by function, and there's a defined owner, there's a life cycle, there is a defined metric around what the data product would give you. Like much similar to every product specs that you get, right? You will also have a standard set of specs that will come in the product. What is it for? What does the output look like? How can you consume it? The different formats that will output, right? And how can you request for new attributes and all that? I think that kind of changes the game in my point of view. Again, do we have that today? Not in reality. Like other tools there, probably Rajesh in his session may cover about what he has built. But then if you ask me, a data catalog differs from product catalog. I think a product catalog is something that would get built by vendors, and that is going to define and change the entire game for driving consumption of data products, right? And even managing the life cycle of data products also, right? People should avoid creating new products as well. I think we're well over time now. Venkat, any closing comments from you around data products, life cycle of data products?
I think
your point of view are.
See, my suggestion is watch this space. And the fundamental reason is that it is altering the economics of data, in my opinion. So billions and billions of dollars have gone into the infra and things like that. All of this infra is facing very low utilization. And data products are really about aligning the economics of the data infrastructure with the rest of the organization. So not only is it here to stay, it will be big. And it will be once we are on track, in my opinion, to dramatically increase the data consumption.
Thank you. And I think your last one line kind of covers why we all need to watch out for this space around data products, because our careers is going to have a tremendous impact. I think moving from just being plumbers to creating value by delivering more data products is something that we'll all look forward in the next coming few years, right? I think our careers are going to be defined. I think our roles within our organization is going to be defined and redefined over the next 1 or 2 years, right? Thanks a lot, Venkat, for your time today. Thanks for sharing your perspective. I think a lot of us would have benefited. A lot of us would have picked up new terms as well, because you come from a largely machine learning background and we all come from a data engineering background. I think it helps us understand there's a lot more value in 2.5 and 3.5, but we are still stuck at 1 and 2 at times, and probably some of us to focus on the big picture, right? Now, quick announcement, and I have a small request for people who are staying on the call. So next week, we are doing a session on Friday. We'll have Aman talk about around data integration landscape, a topic I think a lot of you would be interested in, but we're also going to do a virtual networking. So we're going to give 30 minutes just for people to network, speak with each other in meeting rooms. So it's going to be a lot more fun next Friday. And then we'll continue back onto the data products journey the following week, right? So before we wind up, I want to ask your feedback as well, because it's a short forum. You can email me or you can drop a comment around how are you thinking the series is going, and where do you think we need to add a lot more? Like, is there something that you need from us that would help you understand the space better? Because this space is new, we completely understand you may have a lot of questions which we have not answered today, or probably have not posted that questions. But if there's something that you think we should be doing to help you, we are happy to do that. But only your feedback would help us do that, right? So drop your feedback or email to me, please. Or if you get a Luma survey, please drop your feedback there. Or if you want to stay on the line, share with us your feedback. I'll be happy to listen as well. I think Venkat will also be happy to get your feedback so that we can plan some of the future topics. What is it that you want? And are we helping you prepare for this data product bubble, if you want to put a better word for it, right? Well, you can unmute your line now. Or want to put it on chat or email me, that's also fine, right? So I think people are dropping off well over time. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time today. Drop in your feedback. We definitely need that. And see you all next Friday for a short session and a lot more networking. Thanks, Venkat, for your time. A lot more value coming from data.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, I'm getting feedback now.
Stop
Okay,
it.
okay,
So
yeah.
it sounds
Any
like,
feedback
I
is
mean,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
No
it
problem.
may be a good idea to have a freewheeling conversation, I think, once, because I think there are many interesting questions here, right? Touching
Yeah.
technology and culture and careers and all of those kinds of things.
I think, yeah, we should do that. Probably do more like a panel and poke people around.
That is where my correct.
Yeah. See, I think one thing that would concern people, right, is how do I move into this DPM role or a DPO? Like it or not, there's going to be a lot of courses. There's not be like how PM courses are said. There will be somebody starting a data product manager foundation also. It is going to happen, right? So in the next 1 year. Now, how can this group be like the pioneers? There is what I think all of us want them to be, and they're also naturally asking those sort of questions, right? And how do you elevate yourself from just being a plumber today, which is what you're doing, moving data or transforming data using Spark, or you're using SQL to transform the data into finished data tables. They're not creating finished products or even adding value by whatever machine learning models that you use and all that. Largely, that's what our work is. Like delivering clean, trusted data is our work. Our work stops there. Now, with this, how do I elevate my conversation? How do I elevate my career? Because being a data engineer is not fancy. It's not a fancy title to have. It's a more engineering title. And a PM is what every engineer out there wants to become.
Really? They want to become PMs?
A lot of them. What's your career progression? I see. Right? Somebody's staying on the call. Shri, is that true?
Yeah.
I think
interesting.
Shri, you should talk about what do you see? Are you seeing any conversations on data product in your company or in your conversations?
Sorry, Rajesh, is it for me?
Yeah, for you. I'm asking you, are you seeing any conversations around data product in your company or in your connections beyond this forum?
Beyond this, no, I think, I'm not involved much in other forums as if you talk about
No, I mean to say in
office.
your day-to-day work, in your discussion with your managers or leaders in the company. I understand you speak to a lot more people beyond your company, correct?
You can stop
Yes.
recording, Ashit.
Yeah, actually, it's still recording. Okay. It will actually create more work for me to edit it.